Let me tell you a little bit about my guest today. Greg is a seasoned expert specializing in assisting individuals in discovering the most suitable franchise opportunities for their needs. Additionally, he offers guidance on transforming existing businesses into franchises as a strategic growth approach. You can learn from Greg about the intricacies of franchise selection, the process of turning a business into a franchise, and the potential benefits of this expansion strategy for achieving sustainable growth. His expertise provides valuable insights into the franchise landscape and can guide you in making informed decisions to optimize your business ventures. So, Greg, welcome to the show.
Candy, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Biz Help for You, the show that saves you the expensive learning curve by providing advice from industry experts in every facet of the entrepreneurial journey. Too many small businesses collapse. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 20% fail within their first year, and less than 35% make it to their 10th anniversary. The goal of this podcast is to change that statistic. So if you're interested in learning more to be a successful entrepreneur, tune in today.
I am looking forward to this topic. I actually have a few clients who are franchises, and I've worked with them for quite a few years. So I understand a little bit of the background, but there's a lot who are probably listening who don't understand everything that goes into it. So I definitely am looking forward to the conversation. But before we get started, I would love to ask you first about how you became involved with franchising.
Candy, we'll have to go back to the Wayback Machine for that one, but I'll keep it short on that.
Okay.
Back when I was in high school, as a lot of us high school people did back in the late 70s, I got my first job at a fast food place. Just so happened to be Taco Bell. Maybe they were hiring at the time, who knows? But it turns out I ended up working and managing many different Taco Bell restaurants for a master franchisor. She owned actually 50 Taco Bell restaurants throughout the
Oh,
Woodland,
wow.
California, Sacramento, California area. So I was helping her grow her restaurants. And that was my first foray into franchising. And then fast forward 30 years later, after going through corporate for a while and owning a couple private businesses while working as an engineer, I decided it was time to get back into the business world again. And I looked back on my time at that when I was in that franchise, and I said, that franchising thing was really cool, a lot of fun. I want to try that again.
Mm-hmm. Nice. It's funny because as I was a college student too, I was majoring in basically business management and, kind of that type of thing, not just basic business, but entrepreneurial management was one of the courses I had to take, and we had to start a business and pick something. So I actually picked a Baskin Robbins franchise and learned about that. So it was interesting, definitely interesting to learn. I think that was probably one of the first times I realized what a franchise was, because I think I thought, you just see all these restaurants out there and like your Taco Bells or Baskin Robbins or whatever, and didn't realize that individual people owned those, but operated it as like a name brand restaurant. And so I think that was quite interesting to learn how that all worked. So I'm really excited to have this conversation. And there probably still are some people who don't really understand how franchising even works. So I would love for you first to just give an overview of what franchising really is and how it does work.
Thank you, Candy. The first thing was that just like you, we're talking about individual people own these franchises. You and I own these franchises. The reason that franchisors grow through franchising is the fact that they want somebody local to be the name and face of that franchise on there. In their systems, it's come a local owner operator. I think it makes it more appealing to a lot of people in that area. How franchising works, in direct answer to your question, is that basically what you're doing is you're renting or leasing the business model from that franchise itself. They've already have the game plan all set out for you, step by step. You follow these directions. You're never going to wonder, what do I do next? You're taking and you're leasing that business model from them. You pay an initial franchise fee, a one-time franchise fee, generally around $50,000. Then you pay royalties, but between about 5 and 10%. And that just depends on how much the franchisor helps you grow your business. But in essence, you and I, Candy, when we go out there, we're renting a business model, a proven business model. They've duplicated it before, they've done it before. And all we've got to do is just step in, follow those directions, and we're off and running.
Mm-hmm. And some people may say, well, definitely there's pros and cons to each of them, and having a franchise or starting my own business and not having a franchise. So, do you want to maybe touch on some of those pros of why you want to have? I know you just talked about kind of, you're renting a brand and you're stepping into a business, but what other pros may they have if they want to become a franchise?
Yeah, it's a great question on that, Candy. Since we're talking to a lot of business owners out there, if you're thinking about becoming a franchise on that, think about uh, why would you want to get into one, and how are you looking to grow your business? So you can grow it on a linear basis, whereas when you have enough money, you can then open up another location somewhere else using your money to do that. Your resources, you hire the people, you oversee the people, you can do that. You can only do that so often depending on how much money is coming in. If you want to become a franchise, then you're looking down the road, and you're thinking of more exponential growth. Somebody else is going to use their money to open up that business. You're going to have that business model for them all set out. You're going to mentor them, you're going to help them. You're going to have kind of a different role than if you were being the manager of many different locations, basically a corporate entities where you do it yourself privately. Now what you're doing is you're being more of a mentor. You're showing these people how you did it, teaching them how you did it, and then you turn them loose and let them do it based on your guidelines. So as a business owner, it's a good way to grow exponentially. You can grow a lot faster that way. And as somebody like you and I, Candy, who step into a franchise, it's a good way to get into a business where we can get to where we want to be 2 to 3 years quicker than if we were to do it ourselves.
hmm Well, and definitely, as a lot of people have started businesses and had a passion for what they were doing, but didn't really know a lot of the things it takes to run a business. This is why I have my podcast too, just to really educate people on different topics. But when you become a franchisee too, they spell out all the systems and processes and how-tos and all of that. So you could follow like a roadmap, right? And it will help you along. The downside of that, of course, is you're paying for that knowledge, right? But depending on what your goals are, you could find that it's much better to actually have that extra cost, but you have everything in place. You don't have to have that learning curve, right? And make those mistakes that other people may be making.
Absolutely correct, Candy. That's what you want that franchisor for. They make the mistakes for you. They've done all that, gone down the wrong path, gone down the wrong road, and they say, these are the things that we did to make this business work. We've duplicated it a couple other times just to prove that it can work on there. So if you follow these directions, it more than likely will work for you. Again, no guarantees in life, no guarantee you're going to get up in the morning and actually follow those directions. But considering you do, your chances of success are that much greater.
hmm So if someone is considering starting a franchise, do you have maybe some things that they should ask themselves to see what is a good fit for them so they know kind of what route to go?
Absolutely. Think about why. Why are you doing this? And if you want to, you're not a business owner, creating a franchise. You're somebody like you and I can. You want to get into a franchise. Why? Because the first thing you ask yourself is, what am I looking to get out of that franchise system? And basically, what's my goal on there? Then what you want to look at is your past experiences. What do you bring to the table? Which franchises are looking for people like you on that? Not only from your past experience, I mean, the boxes in your head are gold. I mean, you've got all that experience, you've done these things in your life, and franchisors are out there looking for people like you. If you're young, 20, 25, and haven't done those things, well, there's still franchises out there looking for people with a lot of energy and go out and they'll teach them everything on that. But most of the times they're looking for some people with experience on that. So consider your why and consider where you've been. What do I bring to the table? Where are you at now is one thing to really consider is how much time do you want to invest in a franchise? Most of the time, Candy, when you and I are looking at these things, we're thinking you got to do, $1 million, you got to do it full time. Not the case. You can do it semi-absentee. So what are you really comfortable putting into a franchise as you're looking to get into one? What are you comfortable time-wise putting into that franchise? What are you comfortable putting in money-wise into that franchise? And really, why are you looking into it? Where do you want to go? Which ones are a good cultural fit? You don't have to know the industry that you're getting into, but you do need to have an interest in it, and you do need to get to know it so you know what makes that industry, that business in that industry profitable, and what are the long-term goals for it.
Hmm. Yeah, when you say too, it doesn't even have to be an industry you've been in. One of my clients who has a franchise actually used to be an engineer, had been laid off, and was like, okay, what am I going to do now? And actually met someone who helped him look at different opportunities. And he ended up picking out having a gym, right? And so he was like, that's something totally different, but he really loves it. He was always interested in health and wellness and things like that anyway. So it went along with what he enjoyed. And so since then, he's been doing it. And of course, COVID was one of the things that really hit him hard. That was unexpected. And thankfully, he's been able to turn that around and is continuing. But I think that's just to your point where it doesn't have to be something that you've been doing all this time as well. You can find something, and because they guide you and they tell you how to run your, the operation that you're going to be doing.
Absolutely right, Candy. I mean, your friend is just like me, laid off engineer. There I am,
Okay.
microelectronic circuit engineer for Motorola Semiconductor and Freescale Semiconductor, got laid off, looked around for many different franchises, finally found a franchise consultant, made it nice and simple, got me into a telecommunications consulting franchise. Never done anything with the industry before, but I said, I got to go out and talk to business owners all over the place, help them out with their telecommunications needs. I like helping people. That sounds like fun. So let's
Hmm.
get to know the industry and let's see what we can do in it.
Hmm. Perfect. So for those who are thinking like, okay, I want to, consider this opportunity, there's so many different things that go into that decision making too. And like, how long do you think they should really be researching and spending the time, to figure out what might be the good fit before they actually move forward and approach the company and saying, I'm interested, in being one of your franchisees? And then how long does that process take on average? Or is there kind of an average amount that once the franchisor is like, okay, great, we're ready to have you join, that might, how long is that lead time until they can actually open a business?
A couple good questions right in there, Candy, on that one. So let's say you start looking at franchises. I mean, if you do it yourself, like I did, it was a bit of a challenge for me to try to narrow down the franchises that I want to get into. You can do it yourself, and there's plenty of information on my website if you want to do it yourself that you can get on there and how to do it. How long that takes you is, it took me a little while, probably a couple months that I was looking into it to determine that. Uh, but once you get into it, and once you find a couple of franchises that you feel are a good fit for you, you're going to be looking at between about 6 and 8 weeks for the total process. So what you're going to get to do, and a lot of this stuff I'll do for you. You don't have to do it yourself, but if you want to do it yourself, you can. What you're going to do is you're going to talk to that franchisor. You're going to talk to the franchise development people. And that takes, again, between 6 and 8 weeks. You're going to get to know that franchise system. They're going to show you how they're going to train you, how they're going to support you, what kind of mentorship you get. They're going to go through their franchise disclosure documents with you. And then a key aspect of that is you've got to talk to as many franchisees as possible before you sign any franchise agreement or do anything else on that, to really verify and validate all the information that the franchise has been telling you on that
Mm-hmm.
one. That little process in itself is probably the one that's kind of makes it between about 6 and 8 weeks, because you may want to talk to many of them. You want to talk to as many as you can until you start hearing the same thing over and over again. Hopefully good on that. If it's
Mm-hmm.
not, then time to move on. But franchisees are generally really blunt. I mean, I send my people to franchisees, and there's no telling what they're going to hear. Well, I kind of got an idea what they're going to hear, but each day is different. So they may be having a bad day, one of those
Mm-hmm.
franchisees, and you'll hear about it. But picture yourself, talk to the ones that are doing the most. If you want to make the most money, if your goal is to make the most money as possible, talk to the ones that are doing the most. Find out what they do on a daily basis. Find out what the culture is like in that
Mm-hmm.
franchise, what the core values are. Picture yourself doing what that top performer does. If you can, you're probably on the right track. If you can't, well, maybe it's time to move on or hire somebody to do it for you on that one.
Mm-hmm.
But now your other question, that was the process to go through it. Now your other question was to open your doors. So opening up your doors is going to be two different things. If you're looking at a brick and mortar, Candy, like you referred to earlier, the things that we see when we're driving around all the time, most people's minds, that's what, Meineke, Mako, McDonald's, Taco Bell, those are the sort of things we see. Those are going to take a little while longer, a little bit more of an investment, because you've got to do a build out of a space on that. So you may be looking at 6, 7 months on that,
Hmm.
finding the location, building it out. You build it and they will come. That's your thing, but
Hmm.
it might take a little while to build. Service industry, on the other hand, is a lot less of an investment, around 150,000, give or take. If you do something where you work from home and you go out and see your clients, as soon as you're through training on that, you're off and running. So that's
Hmm.
68 weeks and then maybe another week or so for training. So you're looking at, within 3 months from the start, you've got your doors open basically, and you're out there doing whatever it takes to get that franchise going, and you've got money coming in pretty much depending on the franchise right away with the service industry.
Hmm. Well, and while you were talking too about, reaching out to other franchisees and talking to them and getting their feedback, I was also wondering if there's the opportunity for them to actually go work in someone else's for a little bit to make sure that that's really what they would enjoy doing before they actually have to sign on the dotted line, or like, how would that work? Because again, if you're going into something totally different that maybe you've never worked in before, but you think it's going to be fun, how do before you actually get yourself into a contract?
How you know, Candy, is that you do whatever it takes for you to get a good feel for that business itself. And if it
Hmm.
takes you going out there and spending a couple of days with them while they're doing it, by all means, go out there and do that. I'm not too sure if they're going to employ you for a day or two, but
Hmm.
I mean, that's
Right.
just a brilliant idea, Candy. If you're going to
Mm.
do it, sign on as an employee for a while. That way you get to know what the employees are going through, whether it be, a brick and mortar, whether it be a service industry. Some of the service industries might be a little bit of a challenge. The AC, plumbing, electrical services, you may not be able to be hired on, but
Hmm.
you can spend a day going around with the person that's talking with the clients to have that business done. And that's just a brilliant idea, is to go out there and spend as much time as you can with them, whether it be in an office setting, whether it be in a retail setting, or whether services where you're going out there and going on calls with these folks. Great idea. My people do that on occasion too. I let them know that that is available to them. I just had a gentleman look into the senior care business itself. He went out
Hmm.
and visited a location. He spent a day with the franchise, one of the other franchisees out there, learning what they do, so that he could make certain that this is what I want my day to look like. So yes,
Hmm.
brilliant idea.
Okay, so if someone is thinking like, okay, I want to get into the franchise, we heard, it might be $50,000, maybe it's more, do they have to have their own funding? Can they go to the SBA? Like, what are some of the options that they could have for actually purchasing that license to be a franchisee?
Yeah, great question on that one, Candy. $50,000. Generally speaking, any franchise you get into, one-time franchise fee, 50,000. The rest of it's going to be what we call the total investment on that. So if you're looking at the service industry, you generally don't need a whole lot. 100, 150,000, 200,000 if you need some equipment. Brick and mortar, you've got that built out, a little bit more on that one. So SBA loans, if we just go that route, simple thing on there. If you want to get into a service industry, probably get an SBA Express loan would be the easiest thing to do. You're coming up with about $20,000 down, and they give you around $150,000, $200,000 for that. Funding for a franchise is very simple. We have people that fund franchises all the time. They've got that proven track record of success. So it really just comes down to your good credit
Hmm.
on that. If you're getting into a brick and mortar type place, you go with an SBA 7A loan. You'll come up with about 20% on that one. And that could be a little bit heftier, just depending on what the total investment is. And for brick and mortars, you're looking at probably around $400,000 on up. So you're looking at coming up with around $80,000.
Hmm.
That's using other people's money. A lot of my investors, most of our investors, love using other people's money for it on that one, just as long as the investment services the debt. If
Hmm.
you don't want to use other people's money, I didn't, a personal decision completely, and you have a 401k plan or an IRA from another previous employer, you can do what's called a 401k rollover into a self-directed 401k plan. So you create a C corporation, or the people that I work with will do all this for you. Create a C corporation, roll your money over into a self-directed 401k. You can buy stock in any corporation you want to with a self-directed. That's why it's called self-directed. You buy stock in your new corporation, your new C corporation, and then you just transfer that money from your 401k plan into your C corporation's checking account. Now using your money to do it. Definitely a personal decision. I don't know of too many CPAs that really care for that sort of thing on that one, but because they want your retirement money to stay retired. But I did, and I turned it into a lot more. And I had quite a few people that I work with will do that so as not to go into debt on that one. Definitely a personal decision one way or the other.
Right. So do you find that there are certain industries that are maybe easier to set up franchises? Like, so if an entrepreneur is thinking, well, I have a business and I think it could be a great franchise, is it a little bit easier for certain types of industries versus others? Or what is your experience with that?
No, Candy, there's a few different things that we look at. Any industry, any business, we can turn it into a franchise. People love getting into franchises. We've always got a list of people getting into franchises. Things to look at, direct answer to your question. Number one is if you want to attract more people to your offering, making certain that you're netting a six-figure income is a good attractor. Not all of our franchises do that. Not all of our franchises that we sell or put people into, do they make a six-figure income on that? So it's not essential, but it does help attract more people.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have you duplicated it yet? Do you have one location, or do you have more? The more locations you have makes it more attractive for us to bring in new clients. We've started and built franchises that had that one single corporate location. It is entirely doable. It's just more attractive to people if you duplicated it already. And probably one of the most important things for growing your franchise system is how many different cities can use what you have to offer on that. Can anybody in any city use it? Now, again, not essential, so that we do have, or I do have heard of, and there are out there, franchises that do boat renting. Obviously, you can't, not every city and every state's going to be able to do boat renting because some of them don't have any water near them.
Right.
Still doable, but you just a little bit more limited in how many people you can do it. So those three things, if you're making a good six-figure income, great. Netting, if you duplicated it, great. That's an added plus. And depending on how many people in different cities and states can use that product or service.
Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. So is there anything else maybe on this topic even that I didn't know to ask a question about that you want to share?
So I think we went over a little bit, but quite often when people come to me, especially my real estate investors, for some reason, we see that there are all brick and mortar places out there, and we think that it's $1 million to invest in, and that you have to do it full time. So just keep in mind that you don't have to do it full time on that. There's plenty of semi-absentee franchises out there, and what they mean by semi-absentee is you manage the manager, you manage the profit and loss statements, you're putting in 10 to 15 hours a week. And it can be the service industry that we talked about. That wasn't too much money, brick and mortar. There's plenty of them out there. If you're doing it yourself, just make certain if you do want to do a semi-absentee and you're looking into that franchise, that they have people that started it from the beginning of doing it semi-absentee. They came in, so you have people to talk to you about how did it work out for you. The more, the merrier.
Right. Because I think someone may think, well, I know if I start my own business and working in a franchise and, using a restaurant maybe as an example, I'm going to be there all the time, and so like you're saying, having a semi-absent, so are there maybe a couple of industries you can mention where that works really well compared to maybe what we have in our mind of those fast food restaurants or things like that are running, multiple hours a day, sometimes 24 hours a day, and it might be harder to start something like that?
Yeah, some of the services industries are good for that sort of thing. On their restoration services, air conditioning, plumbing, groundskeeping, maid services, those are all great ones to where they operate very smoothly, and they have people that have been doing it semi-absentee in there. So think of some of the ones from the neighborly brands like Ground Guys, Window Genie, Molly Mates, that sort of thing, Benjamin Franklin Plumbing, 1 hour heating and air conditioning. A lot of those can be run semi-absentee on that. Good solid businesses.
Perfect. Well, I know we're coming towards the end of the time we have together, so I would love to ask if you have an offer that you would like to extend to our listeners, and also how can they contact you?
So yes, an offer is great. So I have my book, my Wall Street Journal best-selling book. What's the name of it? I got it right here for you. somewhere like that. Show you a picture. Real freedom. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so you can get this on Amazon. I prefer you go out on Amazon to get it and buy it, especially the hardcover. That'd be just awesome. However, you can go to my website, or right there on the front page of my website. If you don't mind getting a PDF version, then you can get a free copy of it. All you have to do is give me your email address, so I stick you on my newsletter list, which you can opt out of anytime you want. But you can get a free copy of that PDF version on my website, franchisemaven.com. That's franchise, M-A-V as in Victor, E-N.com. If you want to get a hold of me, just Greg at franchisemaven.com, or pick up the phone. Give me a call at 361-772-6401.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Greg, for being a guest on my show and talking about this topic. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Candy. I appreciate it as well, and I'm honored to do so.
And to the listener, excuse me, if you enjoyed today's topic and you want to hear additional information, you can find access to exclusive content in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in today. Would you please share this episode with those you know and leave a review on your favorite platform? And if you find our show informative, would you consider being a financial sponsor to help me continue my mission to educate business owners? A link is located in the episode description, and no amount is too small. I'd really appreciate your support. If you are interested in connecting with our guest and receiving the offer they had to share, a link to our resource page is in the show notes. Finally, if you have any bookkeeping or payroll needs, reach out to us at 310-534-5577 or contact at abandp.com. My team and I are eager to assist you. Until next time, have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Biz Help for You. Please join your host, Candy Messer, again next time. Have a terrific day.